All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get settled in and call the meeting of the House Higher Education Committee to order on February 26th. This is our 1 p.m. Noticed 1 p.m. meeting that we're doing after session. We have two items on the agenda, HB 693, HB 1379, both to be heard for the first time. The chair, as is mentioned, can take a prerogative. We're going to add also for a first presentation House Bill 1382 from Representative Giesler. So we'll do that in the order. We'll do that in order, but these are first hearings. Given the late hour and this being the first hearing, what I would like to ask is let's let the presenter make their presentation, and if there are pressing questions, detailed, direct questions about the bill, committee members, I certainly want you to do those. And but we also have people here that want to speak. So if there are more extended questions or something that we could get to at our second hearing, or you could get with the author offline, I'd like to ask you to yield so that we make sure that we get our testimony for the various three bills. But again, I want everybody to get their questions answered, but let's try to do it that given this. I live close, but some people have a little bit further to go, so I want to be sensitive to that time. With that, Chairman Carpenter, tell us about your proposition. We have HB 693. I am working off LC 521046S. Is that what you have?
Yes, sir, I do.
Yes, sir. She does. I do. You're good.
Right. There we go. Yes, sir. House Bill 693. This is a narrowly tailored bill that would add another school into TEG funding. Herzing has been around the state since the late 1970s, been in existence for 60 years, and it's a nursing program. There's roughly 90 students currently in it. It is a specific program specially tailored to individuals over the age of 25. I think 75% of their students are over the average age of 30. And it does a mix of online and in-person classes, and kind of meets people where they are in life to help them get a nursing degree. Obviously, nursing shortage in the state. This wouldn't. It's not a big budgetary request, but it is saying, hey, these folks could use all the help they could get to get them into the workforce as quickly as possible. And I'll hold for any questions.
Thank you. Did you have anybody that wanted any other part of the presentation?
No. I mean, it's a pretty simple. It's narrowly tailored for this specific school, just like what we've heard earlier with Chair Lady Dempsey's bill on Chamberlain. It's just saying these folks are, it's an accredited school. They do a great job getting nurses ready for the state. Nursing's an issue. This would open them up to TEG funding. And again, I think it's like only like 45% of the students will qualify. So it's not a huge budgetary number, but it will help these folks get over the hump.
Okay, you have a couple of questions. Representative Bernal, you're recognized. You're number 12 down there?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing this bill. I will ask the same question I ask everybody that wants to have another nursing school. There are only so many instructors around. And so I live in Clayton County, and we have Clayton State University that has a nursing program. And it is also a program that does cater to sometimes older students. So with that in mind, even though we're saying that we're only taking a little bit, but I think that every time you take a little bit, you're also taking a little bit from those schools also.
Sure, and I understand what you're saying, but I think that anybody that's going to Clayton State is fully funded through how we fund schools already, and these folks are not costing the state until this passed, would not cost the state anything. They already have instructors in place. They've been operating for 60 years. I don't think this would change enrollment at Clayton State, but I'm very familiar with Clayton State, a big fan. I ran a restaurant in Clayton County for a long time, and we hired employees from Clayton State, and they were always a joy to work with. So I am a fan of your university, but I don't think that this will affect Clayton State at all.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing this bill. I stay awake at night worried about our shortage of nurses in the state. This is really procedural, so I can understand. I know we passed Chair Lady Dempsey's bill, which was also narrowly tailored for one college to be able to qualify. What is the difference in how that was tailored for that college and how this one is tailored for this college? What was the distinction between the two schools that
It
requires another
basically is
bill?
laid out in that 48 through line 70. It's just making sure that it's carving it out.
Got it. But I'm sorry, just a quick follow-up. So what we voted on when we passed Dempsey's bill, this is a different qualification just because the two would not
it's
meet
just
the same
right. It's just to
requirements.
make it, we basically just narrowly tailored it, just like hers for
Got it.
this university.
Okay, great.
I understand, and I understand what you're saying. That it's like, why do we keep coming back one off?
I didn't know if there was an
understand.
easier way to do this.
Yeah, I think we tried a few years. We didn't quite get there. We didn't quite get there. So.
Okay, thank you.
I take, and then we have a speaker that's going to come forward, Representative Holland, that might be able to give us the specific difference. But if you do recall, I tried to take what I would call this section of code sort of spaghetti code, where we've added people over the years and do it, and that a number of the schools that had it were afraid they were going to get carved out of it. That is something that I think if we're all invited back, next term, we ought to really give a good look at that from day one and get everybody comfortable and write this so it's a little bit more understandable now. But that's a good point. You had one more question, Representative Glaze.
First of all, I want to say thank you for bringing the bill. And if a student is full-time in Herzing, is it 3 semesters? And then how quickly do they get to the marketplace?
Yep. So from my understanding, it's a 3-year program. I'm sure you can speed through it if you have the available time. I think 82% is the passing rate on the boards. So they have a pretty good success rate pushing these folks and getting them to the floor. So let's say it's 30, let's say it's spread out 30, if it's 90, 30 each year. So hopefully they're spitting 30 people a year into the workforce.
One follow-up question,
Yes, ma'am,
please. Would we be able to get data? Are you guys going to report back so we'll know how many students are graduating with this extra TEG money?
Sure,
So that
I'm sure we can
Is
have
there
that.
a reporting factor?
No, ma'am, but I'm sure we can get that for you. Absolutely, no problem. I'm sure we could have an update of all the schools that get this kind of funding and how quickly their folks are out in the
I
workforce.
think that would be great.
I think
And
that's a very valid argument.
that helps us make sure that when we're outsourcing that we have outcomes as well.
And I obviously I don't run the budget, but I do think a conversation could be had moving forward in the future about TEG funding and is it up to speed? Is it where it needs to be? Because it does save the state money if these kids aren't going to. Not that I don't want them to go to our public institutions, but some kids, school choice in high school, school choice in college. So there is a factor there.
Thank you again at the proper time.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I appreciate your bill. I know we talked about it earlier. And is it not true that I expressed my desire to, as we add additional schools, I would love to see the tuition equalization grants increased. And one thing that hasn't been touched since 1992 is the private school award through HOPE, which is still at $3,000. And even if we just adjusted that for inflation, that would bring it up to about $7,000. Only for Georgia students that graduate from Georgia high schools. And, again, I'm a big proponent of the university system and technical college system, but we've got a lot of good Georgia schools that are private schools, and a lot of them are struggling, and I think that would be helpful. So I appreciate your bill, and I've said my case. Isn't that true?
I like your thinking.
Thank you, Kevin Floyd. You have no further questions. We had one speaker that signed up for the bill. Mr. Pratt, do you want to come forward and speak to us? You can do it. Do so from over there if you like. I'll turn on the podium mic, or you may come down.
Golly, let's get on over here. Let's get loved up on a Thursday afternoon like we like each other.
It's almost the weekend, isn't it? Mr. Chairman, members, thank you so very much for allowing me to speak with you briefly. My name is Dave Pratt with PMPA, here on behalf of Herzing University. If I may, Mr. Chairman, address the gentle lady's question. Basically, madam, the only difference between our school and Chamberlain is that Chamberlain is a for-profit institution. This is for a non-profit school. Yes, ma'am. Something if I also may add, Mr. Chairman, this school in particular, I'm not sure about other schools, but we in Georgia have certainly a nursing shortage, and one of the missions of Hurston University is to provide members in the healthcare community to our state of Georgia. There is a graduation rate of folks who choose to stay in Georgia that's over the 90 percentile. So these are ladies and gentlemen from Georgia who want to stay in Georgia and provide medical care to Georgians. I think that's very important to point out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. You take question?
Certainly, yes, sir.
Vice Chairman of the committee, Carter Barrett.
You said there, thank you for the bill. You had mentioned that there are about 90 students in the program presently.
Yes, sir.
What would you expect as a result of having tuition equalization grants available to
Sure.
the
I
impact
mean,
on enrollment?
I think as you move forward at this point with the inflation that we're seeing, just to be able to keep the 90, I think would be the big thing for me. I think people are struggling, and that would be my hopes, is that we at least keep what we got and then grow if when possible, if that makes sense.
Representative Bernal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to know if the chairman has the same stamina that Chairman Dempsey had in those 8-9 years to get his bill through our committee.
I'm like Rocky Balboa. I can go 12 rounds with you. Not that I want to, but I'll hand it off to my next.
Representative Bernal says she's going to wait you out. She's going to be right here with you. I see no further questions. We don't have any further speakers. We will take this as a first hearing on this and take this under advisement. Look to bring this back next week.
Appreciate you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Y'all have a great
Thank you.
weekend. Appreciate your help.
Yeah, and I see Mr. Green back there with the Georgia Student Finance. If you have any information finance, I know you have been able to provide that for us before. I think you actually had sent an email recently over to our office. We'll get that out to the committee as well. Thank you, Mr. Green. We're going to go now to the former vice chairman of the caucus, Houston Gaines from the 120th. Representative Gaines, tell us about HB 1379.
Sure, and I will be very brief. I know that we are, I know a lot of people are trying to get home, so I will be brief in my comments, and a lot of y'all have seen, can't see Tim Fleming over there, but this is building on what Tim, Representative Fleming, has worked on the last couple years. I know y'all heard that is trying to just increase transparency and funding from foreign sources into our school systems across the state. The difference, because Representative Barrett asked me this a moment ago, and I think that's really where we should start, is the difference between what the legislature passed last year and what this does this year. And I was proud to sponsor Representative Fleming's bill, and he's sponsored this legislation. I think they work well together. This expands the requirements from last year. The bill we passed applies to the countries of concern, which would include China, North Korea, Iran, Russia. I may be missing one or two, but that legislation included $1,000 and more to higher ed institutions, USG institutions, whereas this legislation applies to all countries as it's currently written, and it applies to K through 12 and TCSG. The reason we're doing that, and
Carry on, please.
the reason, and I believe these charts show a couple of examples of things we're trying to capture here, and I'll just identify a couple that have come in. This is just one $100,000 scholarship money for high school students for Arabic, $65,000 from the Qatar Foundation International to Georgia State University for Arabic Teacher Council of the South, $46,000 from Qatar Foundation International for a student exchange trip to the Middle East. 11 high schools scholarship recipients in Atlanta. That part of that was to go to Arabic institutions here in the United States. One piece that would be captured from what we passed last year, but an example from China, Confucius Institute, some grant funding there from several years ago. But these are the kind of things that we're trying to capture, and that's why we have expanded what we did last year. And it's my belief that we need to make sure that people in this state understand what foreign governments are trying to do by influencing curriculum in our schools. K through 12 is vitally important because that's where our young people are first exposed to some of these topics. And then certainly in college, we need to know where these actors are trying to influence our students. This doesn't ban the funding. It simply requires transparency so that people across the state understand what's occurring. And so that's what the legislation does. I'm happy to answer questions. I have Jeremy Berry here with me, as well as Esther Panich, and Esther and I have worked together on this legislation. And I'm sure there's a few folks who want to speak. But again, I wanted to be brief and just give you a high-level overview of what this does. It requires semi-annual reporting of that funding to the Department of Audits, and that's a high-level overview of the legislation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Did any, Jeremy, did you want to speak, Representative Panich, did you want to speak at this time? Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you,
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. I'll be brief, knowing that y'all are ready to head back home, as you should be. Thank you for Chairman Gaines and Representative Panich and others for their work on this bill. Echoing what Chairman Gaines said, we have found the tip of the iceberg, we think, and it's very much a needle in the haystack, to mix metaphors, through the Open Records Act and working with other organizations, have seen funding from the Qatar Foundation International to Amana Academy, which is a public charter school in Fulton County, sending 15 kids to Jordan. There's funding coming in from QFI sending kids to Qatar. We've seen funding to Georgia State University in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Arabic Teachers Council. And we've seen funding, as Chairman Gaines said, from China as well, from entities directly tied to the Chinese government. These funds are being used to impact curriculum, to impact maps of the Middle East, for example, and to impact what students are teaching and are being taught and experiences that they're having. As Chairman Gaines said, this is frankly to fix a loophole in current law. The current law points to federal law as what needs to be disclosed. Qatar, for example, is not on the federal law, so there is no funding, for example, under federal law that would need to be disclosed in Georgia from Qatar. We're closing that loophole, or this legislation proposes to close that loophole, so that people are aware. And again, people can pass whatever judgment they may on whether this funding should be allowed or should not be allowed. Our point is simply to provide transparency, frankly, that does not exist today.
Representative?
Thank you. Last month, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies published a report documenting that the Qatari Foundation International funneled over $280,000 in Georgia's public schools, K through 12, with a Fulton public charter school, and to over $200,000 to Georgia State. FDD, Foundation for Defense of Democracy, is a nonpartisan research institute focused on national security and foreign policy. Their work is cited by members of Congress on both sides, by the Department of Justice, and by federal law enforcement. This is not a fringe organization. It's serious, credible research. And the report was based on tax filings, grant records, and publicly available documents through Freedom of Information Acts. The Qatari Royal Family Organization is sending money into our schools. The same report found that a QFI recognized Teacher of Excellence praised Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar online. This is what the problem is. On its own, teaching Arabic is great. There's no problem. Cultural exchanges are great. That's no problem. But when the teachers they are training come back and remove Israel from maps of the Middle East, not an old map, a modern map, after the State of Israel was enacted, Israel is disappearing on maps, and that's a problem. Teacher trainings funded by QFI also recommended films that sympathized with suicide bombers. We would never allow a country to send money in that was praising Osama bin Laden. Yahya Sinwar is no different. I posted a report about this on my social media, on my X. I have a few followers. But what happens next proves why we need this. Within hours, the Qatari ambassador to the United States himself responded to my tweet, not to dispute the facts, but to attack the source. He called FDD extremist, Then his deputy chief of mission joined in, and it didn't stop. For days, a foreign government conducted a coordinated campaign against a Georgia state legislator for asking questions about foreign money in our schools. The deputy told me in one of our multiple communications that I was, quote, spreading disinformation like, quote, people like you always do. People like me, a Jewish woman, a proud Zionist. He warned me to, quote, be cautious. And then he warned me again to, quote, be cautious. A foreign diplomat telling an American elected official, and the diplomat coming from a country without freedom of speech, telling a Georgia state representative to be cautious for asking questions about their funding. It kept going. Someone in the thread suggested that maybe some funding to me would, quote, shut her up. Mr. Chairman, this went on for days. The harassment and warnings, the anti-Semitic tropes, it rose to a level where I had to bring in the FBI. Throughout this, notice what Qatar did not do. They did not dispute the dollar amounts. They did not dispute the crayons. They did not dispute the teacher who praised Hamas. They attacked the messenger. And we all know, most cases where there's smoke, there's fire. I didn't go looking for the fight, but when a foreign government targets an American lawmaker for asking basic questions about money that is going into our public schools, it tells you what you need to know about what they're trying to hide. This bill simply requires disclosure of funding. This is not a ban from foreign countries of concern. Sunshine, transparency, letting parents and taxpayers know who is funding their children's education. They don't want transparency. They don't want Georgians to know where the money's coming from or what it will be used for. This bill will change that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. That concludes your presentation.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, can I make one remark? I've got hard copies of, I think, 4 or 5 different examples that we referenced, if y'all want to see as well, that we can leave behind or make sure.
Okay, if you would get those to our analyst, and she will pass them out. I appreciate you doing that. We always like to look through things. Now, I know you're right there, and we're just trying to keep people from getting things to the committee, and we don't know where they came from. We obviously know the source here. If you all wish to stay here, if you guys wish to stay seated, I will call on. We had a couple people that signed up to speak. All right, we're back to where we were yesterday on penmanship. Is it Allie or Lee?
Ali Medoff, and that's my handwriting.
Ollie Madoff. All right. Well, I'm gonna get after Representative Panics because I couldn't find out if that was 2 L's or one that was just squiggly. Allie, if you would please, Allie.
Like Allison.
Allison. Yeah, Allie.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you so much. I am the mother of 3 boys who went through Cobb County's K through 12 system, and now 2 of them are in our universities, one at Georgia Tech, one at UGA. Yes, I'm very proud of them. Thank you.
Go Dogs.
And jackets, you know. But I am speaking in strong favor of HB 1379. Why should we care about this? I mean, foreign rulers shouldn't have a say in what our children learn in Georgia schools. And the Chinese Communist Party shouldn't be operating schools in Georgia and directly funding student clubs and associations in our schools. Qatar has supported U.S. designated terror organizations and the Muslim Brotherhood. It's been a major Hamas financier. And is home to Hamas's political office, and the Taliban's political office is based in Doha. The Chinese Communist Party doesn't really. Why? To what purpose do they need to be funding schools and being involved in our schools? I just think parents have a right to know whether foreign actors are shaping what their children are learning in school and what the young minds in our incredible universities are learning in school. And, I know that there are other states who have done, who have legislation, and in those states, they are banning and prohibiting the funding. That's not what this bill does. It's only asking for reporting and disclosure and transparency, and I think that's more than fair. So thank you so much for listening and for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Robert Rothberg? Mr. Rothberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robert Rothberg, Sandy Springs, Georgia, lifelong Georgian, K through 12 in Georgia Tech. Well,
I'll say go Jackets, since we said go Dogs.
Once we learned about the situation, remember, we said we used a shovel to start digging. I could only imagine what would have been turned up had we used an excavator. So this obviously goes very deep. There are lots of bad actors in the world probing for weakness everywhere they can find it. This is right in front of us. This is a good bill that creates transparency. There's lots and lots of legitimate reasons for funding to come into our schools. What we've seen is there's probably a lot of illegitimate reasons, and this bill will help us sort through that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rothberg. We do have a couple of members that have got questions here. I'm going to assume these are for the author of the bill. I wanted to get through the speakers. I appreciate the patience of my members. We're going to go in order here. Whip Park, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few questions, if I may, to the author of the bill. Feel free to cut me off as needed, Mr. Chairman. Would this bill apply to all schools in Georgia, including private schools, to ensure that, given your concerns, which I share, of understanding what foreign money is coming into Georgia schools, that with private charters and other private schools that are receiving public funds, would this bill apply to ensure that there's transparency, again, with all of our schools?
As written, it's just public schools.
Would you be open to expanding it to ensure all schools that
Sure.
these provisions would apply to everybody?
I'm open to it.
The second question, if I may, this is to ensure disclosure and transparency for all foreign governments providing money?
Yes.
Okay, so whether it's Israel, whether it's,
Everybody.
Iran, what have you?
As written, it's everybody. Now, we're working to make sure, we have heard from USG and some others that, we're trying to make sure that we get to the real issues that we're seeing, like in Qatar and China and some of the others. But as written, this applies to everybody.
Okay. Can you help me better understand, for especially our colleges, how common is it for them to be receiving, dollars from foreign governments with respect to various partnerships? I'm thinking in particular Georgia Tech and all of the strategic initiatives and research projects they have. Would this bill in any way limit or begin making it more difficult with respect to innovation and some of the projects that Georgia Tech's working on?
I don't think it would. I think it just is public disclosure. So,
last question or two, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Representative Gaines, I share your concern about foreign dollars certainly influence public education. Would you agree with me that we should ensure that we have that sort of transparency to everybody, including the Trump administration, given the many concerns I've heard with respect to the hundreds of millions of dollars the Trump administration has received from foreign governments and the potential influence that has on our country?
I think you're just basing that off of media reports that, based on what I see in the media these days, isn't a whole lot of truth. So I think this bill gets to where we need to be in Georgia with public education, and that's what I'm here to talk about.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing this. Sorry. Thank you for bringing this bill and to our esteemed colleague, Representative Fleming, as well, for the great bill last year, which I thought was very good. There was a lot of talk last year around the dollar amounts, I noticed, and that was reduced ultimately, I think, through the process to $1,000. This is just basically any donations, right?
It is. I do think we're open to at least matching the $1,000 requirement, so that we're at a similar playing field. But as it's written today, it's every dollar. But I think one of the things I think we do recognize is if you're trying to really influence curriculum and those sort of things, it's going to be more than $1,000. And so certainly we're open to those adjustments.
Okay, and I noticed this calls for semi-annual reports versus annual reports last year. I'm not sure if that was just incongruent just by nature, or was there a thought process that went into saying this needs to be more than what was in the previous legislation?
I would be open to that. I don't want to speak to what others would think of that, but certainly, I do think it makes sense to match in large part what we did last year.
And whom the report goes to. The report last year includes the chairman of higher education in the Senate, the chairman of the higher education in the House. I think that is not included here. I think that's kind of important, given that we're talking about the source of
I think that'd be a good
funding
add.
and those things, just a detail. But Whit Parks talked about private schools. I had a question. I thought, what about private schools that receive state funding, if that was the necessary connection there? Tuition versus other fundraising as well. I noticed tuition, of course, just like in Representative Fleming's bill, that's outside of the scope of this. A foreign family that has a child in school, that's excluded from this. But a lot of times there's fundraising and things like that can far exceed tuition and things like that. I'm just thinking out loud. My real goal is to make sure I understand the bill as we look forward to the next meeting. But thank you. I think it's a great bill.
Thank you.
We do have a couple more questions, but let me follow up on that. I mean, fundraising, if there was a USG Foundation and whatever, if donations were made to that would be covered in this bill, would it not?
It would be.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, Dr. Clark, where are you? There you are, down there. You're usually over here. Dr. Clark has moved to my right, for all of you that want to know.
Well, normally we're in a different room, and my office is right next door. So, okay. Yes, everything is throwing me off lately. Thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you so much for the bill. I have a question about this, and maybe someone just alluded to it, so maybe I was late. How is this different than HB 150 that was passed last year?
Yes, we did go over that. Two major things is, one, it applies to all countries, and two, it applies to K through 12 and TCSG.
Chairman Fleming's bill last year was just particular adversaries. This applies to everyone equally. Every country.
Foreign source, so every country.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
And then my follow-up question to that is, does this also apply, since we're doing every country, to things like foreign exchange programs and things like that some schools do? Because I know we have a carve out for things like tuition. Is there any concern about having to disclose every foreign exchange program as well?
I believe it would apply to foreign exchange, and I do think that's valuable information in some cases, because some of the examples we were given is, funding hundreds of thousands of dollars of foreign exchange programs to the Middle East, and so I do think that's valuable information.
Yeah, thank you.
Representative Holcomb.
Thank you.
I think you're in Dr. Clark's seat, Representative Holcomb.
That works.
You recognize, sir.
I have a few questions. Is there a distinction between the government of the nation state of Qatar and the Qatar Foundation International?
There is, and Jeremy, I don't know if you want to address that, but it is a good point, and certainly something that we're wordsmithing. This is one of the things we're making sure with Legislative Council is that we certainly cover something like Qatari Foundation, because there is a difference. I don't know, Jeremy, if you want to speak to that.
Thank you, Representative Holcomb. Qatar Foundation International used to be a U.S. 501c3. It is now a U.S. LLC. QFI is funded by something called the Qatar Foundation, which is a sort of umbrella group, if you will, that I think has similar entities underneath it all over the world. The Qatari family funds the Qatar Foundation. So it goes Qatari family, Qatar Foundation, QFI.
Okay.
The royal family.
Okay. And a couple of reactions. One is, generally speaking, I'm in favor of transparency, but some of the things that I heard is it appeared to be a conflation between the nation state with the foundation. Even like Doha has a Taliban place. I might be one of the only members who's been to Doha, and we also have an American Central Command base there, and we have security cooperation in Qatar and specifically in Doha, and so I looked and I don't see that Qatar as a nation. I'm not a defender of Qatar either, but just want us to be factual and accurate. Is lines 18 and 19? I don't think that they qualify under that either, correct?
They do not under foreign country of concern, but the way the legislation is written is this would apply to every single country, so they would, but correct.
Okay.
In those lines definition, it would not.
Okay.
But the legislation does apply to every single country.
And that's what I wanted to make sure that I understood too. So take classic allies, United Kingdom and France, still same.
It does.
outcome.
The way the bill's written today, it does, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
May I go back one second to for the last question? So Qatar, as you said, the U.S. does have a military base there. I can't speculate why, but Qatar is not on the federal, what I've sort of termed naughty list. So the funding that we're talking about here under current federal law does not need to be disclosed because they're not on the federal sort of naughty list, if you will. And that's, I think, in part the reason for this legislation. Yes, it is a complicated relationship between the United States and Qatar. Qatar also funds Hamas. Hamas leadership is in Qatar. America also has a military base there. It's complicated, but that's why we suggest putting them on the list here.
Well, it's even more complicated because we accepted a 747 from Qatar, and we offered to have a military base on U.S. soil from Qatar. So your point is well taken, Mr. Berry. Thank you.
And if the chair could just weigh in here, this is for every country. I mean,
It is.
if we, think they're friends or they're not, this is for every country. So I think that's important to understand. We just want to be aware. We're not trying to prohibit the funding, but for every country.
Can I ask one more question, Mr. Chairman, before
Yes,
you
sir.
go on? Are there any other countries in a negative context? You've brought to us a couple of negative context examples of both China and Qatar. Are there any others that you can provide?
We're not aware, but it's trying to find something that we don't know about. Meaning,
Because of the lack of transparency.
correct. So working with the Foundation of Defense of Democracies through Open Records Act requests to several schools, this is what we found. I'm sure given more time and resources, we could find more.
Understood. Thank you.
Representative Fleming. What number? You're 25?
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vice Chairman Carter Barrett handled my comments and questions that I had. But I do want to say thank you to the sponsor and Representative Panich. I appreciate y'all's work on this and look forward to, I know we're not voting today at the appropriate time, make that motion that do pass.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman. I wanted to make a friendly amendment, so at the proper time.
I'm going to ask you, we're not going to move on the bill today.
Oh, we're
so
not. That's what I
we'll
wanted.
have an opportunity to get with you and entertain your change. Yes, ma'am.
And it's already been said, so I'll
Okay.
tell you. Public and private, both charter, public and private schools, the transparency there.
Okay. So if I could ask the lady and the author to get together and talk about that. Yes, ma'am. If the author doesn't agree with that, I'd let the lady bring that, in the form of an amendment at the time if we come back. Whip Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One additional question I had with respect, and I think Representative Barrett kind of triggered this question in my mind. But USG, TCSG, the school board association, where are they on this bill? Are they concerned at all in terms of the administrative requirement, certainly with respect to a copy of any contract and all the other information that this bill would require?
I have not heard from the School Board Association or TCSG, to my knowledge, unless I've missed a message, but have talked to USG briefly, and we're working on trying to address some of their concerns. I mean, the reality is our goal here is public disclosure of the donations. So I think they're working with us to try to get to the end goal here.
If you could keep us posted in terms of
I will.
where they are on the bill, that would be helpful.
I will.
Thank you.
That exhausts the questions list of the committee. I don't see any more lights. Let me ask the committee again if there are any further questions on this. Okay, that's what we have. Do you have anything you would like to close out with?
No, I appreciate the committee and look forward to getting this through next week.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll have you back. If y'all will hang with us for one more, we have Representative Eric Gisler. I should know, Representative, but you're please join us. Please, but ladies and gentlemen, this was the bill that the chair added to our agenda this afternoon to hear from the gentleman, 1382. And it is in your packet. If you'd be kind enough to entertain the gentleman. I know it's a late hour on getaway day, as it were, but Representative, you have the floor.
I will try to make it brief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the hearing, and thank you to members of the committee. This is a bill, I'll just read through a quick summary, executive summary. It's a little bit different than the language that you've got. I like this one better. So given the current mismatch in credit standards between the USG and TCSG, veterans coming out of military service with college credit who wish to exempt classes have extreme difficulty in doing so. This leads some veterans to repeat classes and fall behind in their college careers. This bill would help veterans in their bid for higher education and better job prospects by synchronizing UCSG and TCSG both in Georgia code and accreditation procedures and standards to award proper credit to veterans for military service. Despite many robust incentives, gaps still remain. Consistently accepting the American Council on Education credit recommendations across USG and TSG institutions for military experience as course credit. Expanding the recognition of ACE credits would accelerate veterans' entry into higher education and the workforce, reducing relearning skills they already acquired during services such as physical education and public speaking. While USG institutions are encouraged to offer prior learning assessments via ACE recommendations, those assessments are subjected to departmental approval and are not synchronized across TCSG or USG institutions. This uncertainty could slow veterans' education process and delay their integration into the labor force and sideline service members. So looking at the bill, I'm working from LC 610379. It does three things. If you look at, there's two sections, one for USG and one for TCSG. The first is it applies existing language that applies to TCSG already to the UCSG system to encourage maintaining a policy to grant academic credit to veterans based on military service. The second thing it does, it adds to both USG and TCSG. It authorizes both to use joint service transcripts for the purpose of awarding academic credits. And the last thing it does is it authorizes both it authorizes both to develop a public guide showing which military courses may be awarded academic credit based on those ACE recommendations. I do have one, just to mention, I did reach out to USG. The main change here applies to them. I have been in contact with USG's Chief of Staff and Vice Chancellor for External Affairs, Ashley May, and she offered one change to the bill that I'm working with LC to get a substitute on. It changes lines 25 through 28. The new language would be, it's in front of you there. The board, in collaboration with the Department of Veterans Services, is encouraged to develop and make available to current prospective active duty military and veterans a database that includes courses for which institutions have previously awarded academic credit based on military service. And there's a couple of lines there about their justification for wanting to make that change. I was a little bit surprised with that one because maintaining a database is a little more difficult than having publishing a guide, but that's what they requested. So That is the amendment that I'm working on with LC, and with that, I'll take any questions.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the bill. Is it not true that by them accepting and giving them that credit for military service, that also helps on the amount that they're paying because they don't have to pay for extra classes?
That's true. It'll reduce their tuition because of the fewer classes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi. To my sweet mate, the way when you're talking about these credits that they've taken, are we talking about like actual classes that have been taken, or is it something different?
Not being an expert in the military system, I believe it applies to courses and in training. However, that is communicated in the JST.
Okay. Do you have any examples of what normally is accepted? No?
I don't.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry.
Dr. Clark, we can get you that information. That's a good question. I think that to help the gentleman here, these are courses or training courses that are generally accepted by the accrediting agencies, are they not, sir? Is that not your?
That's correct. Yeah.
So we can get you a list of what those are. Because I know that is a bit of the details, but I think these are things that, basically the university system doing this would not jeopardize the accreditation or the training for that person to achieve that degree. But I understand the lady's question.
Yes, all right, thank you.
We'll get you that information. Representative Glaze.
So I want to first of all thank you for bringing this bill. GMC, Georgia Military College, does a great job with this. They're first and foremost at making sure that our veterans have their training and their leadership training transfers into credit. So we're already doing it at GMC. What I hope will happen after this is that this is a part of what our state continues to do to ensure that we bring veterans here to stay and they make their home in Georgia and they finish their degrees here. So thank you again for bringing this legislation to us.
Thank you. And I will point out too, when I reached out to USG, I thought they may object to the first section there that's requiring them to do this. But the response I got was that they are already doing so. Putting it into code just solidifies it. So thank you.
Representative Barrett.
Thank you, Representative. I really appreciate the spirit of the bill and look forward to getting up to speed and understanding it. It might be possible. Is it possible to have someone from TCSG or speak to the bill as well, and from USG, just to sort of talk? I don't understand the vernacular or and how this will happen, but I love the idea of it. I don't know if this already exists, the joint transcripts, and maybe my esteemed colleague over there, Representative Holcomb, could elaborate.
Former military
as a
man.
former military guy. Like the joint transcripts and those things, are those things that already are out there with the Department of Defense, or is it something that has to be created?
My understanding is that yes, that they produced those today.
Okay.
And
thank you.
I would be interested in if you had any input on that, Representative.
You were on and now you're off. Now you're back on. You have a question? No, I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss you. Yeah, yes. Representative Hawken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think it's a great idea in terms of the armed forces just generally really emphasize training and education, and they focus it. I think it can be challenging to try to equate some of the military training with college training. It might be easier on the TCSG side, but they do, and in some circumstances, and this reminds me of a minor regret that I have, is I could have received a degree from the Community College of the Air Force when I was in the Air National Guard before going active duty, and they had a program by which they took the training that you did, and they internally had a process by which they moved it into like college credits, so you could get it towards an associate. So there are mechanisms, I think, that sort of exist for this, but it would be immensely helpful to the extent that the credits were appropriate for college to then have them apply. So a lot of things that I took to be really candid weren't terribly rigorous or difficult, but that's okay.
Thank you. And I was serious. Your light was on. I didn't want to miss you because I thought you would probably. You always have good things to add, but in this particular case, you're right on it. You're right on it, Representative Holcomb. We've exhausted the questions. I didn't see anyone that had signed up to speak on this directly. Is there anyone that wants to speak? If not, perhaps I can work with you, Representative, and we can. If we can get you back next week, we'll try to invite somebody from TCSG to speak to it, as well as the university system, and you'll work on a substitute for us with the language you suggest.
Yes, sir. We'll do that.
Thank you very much. We will. That concludes our agenda. But let me sound this for the committee. I heard some oohs and ahs when I mentioned that we were scheduled to meet Monday morning at 8 a.m. Okay, all right. It's a tough job, but somebody has to do it. So that is our schedule. That is the time we can get. We have some important things we have to do next week. One of those is to take up for a first hearing, because we're going to have two on that. The bill that will, if moved forward and passed, implement the Dream Scholarship out of the student finance. That is what we would hear Monday morning. Please bear with me, and if that is ready, we will try to do that Monday morning. But we will also inform you by email if we can move that a bit later in the morning, because I know, like our esteemed former mayor of Savannah, coming up a long way, Representative Jackson from Savannah, for her to be here Monday morning, that takes half of her weekend away on Sunday. So I'm sympathetic to that. We advertise the earliest possible meeting to be open to the public. If we can find a room and back that up, we will certainly do that. But I wasn't going to call a meeting at 1 and then not be able to have a room and then tell you to be here at 8 o'clock, because that would have been unfair to all of you and the public as well. So we may have to be here at 8 if we can't find anything other than that. But look for your email, please. I will do the best I can. Also, to the public, we will get that out on the website. But we will do our best to do that, because the last thing I want is have people wake up and be here at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we've moved the meeting till later on. But as y'all heard, there are meetings later on. Rules is at 11 o'clock. Rules will be a long time on Monday, and so in order to have a predictable time, we're working within the constraints we're given. I appreciate everybody more than you know. Thanks for staying late on Thursday. Representative Jackson, I know you got a long way to go. Travel safely. I look forward to everybody next week. If there's no further business before the committee, will stand adjourned without objection, and hearing none, we are adjourned.